Hello everyone and welcome back. As you can probably tell from the title, I'm starting a new series. It's called My Story. So essentially with the My Story series, I'm going to be continuing to do background outdoor footage as well as voicing over with a few of my own stories, events in my life, things that have happened throughout my life to shape me who I am today. It will also give you a little bit of insight into why I'm so passionate and why I care so much about spreading awareness about mental health and mental illness. I also hope that this empowers you to share stories with not only me through my channel, but with your family, friends, or people that are close to you that you may not have previously been comfortable with sharing these stories before. Another thing I'm trying to get out of these conversations is to break down the awkwardness when you're talking about your stories to other people. All this talk about sharing your stories and talking about mental illness, throughout my life I have come into many very awkward situations, and more frequently than not, it will lead to an awkward situation when you're talking about mental illness. For me, that does make me feel a little bit anxious inside when you are going to talk to someone, because you never know how they're going to react, if it's poorly, judgmentally, if they're going to get upset. What we're trying to do through these videos is to break down that barrier a little bit, so talking about mental health, mental illness is a normal thing in conversation, so it doesn't feel so daunting and scary to talk about. All this being said, I am going to open up about my mental health and things that I deal with on the daily. The reason why in this video I'm going to be opening up so early is because I'm not trying to hide anything, and I'm not trying to make it seem like it isn't something that I live with daily. This is something that goes on in my head from when I get up to when I go to sleep every day. I do live with many mental illnesses, and to me, throughout the years, I have been learning how to deal with them. So to start off, I have been diagnosed with 3 mental illnesses. They are anxiety, depression, and OCD. I do live with a 4th mental illness. The 4th one I have not been diagnosed with. I will go into further depth into why I haven't pursued a diagnosis in the later video, but the 4th one is borderline personality disorder. So starting off with the 3 original ones that I had known about in my early life: depression, anxiety, and OCD. Those 3 were extremely prominent in my younger years, OCD being one of the major ones. Depression was more so a side effect I felt along with the OCD. Obsessive compulsive disorder, essentially, people probably know it for repeating things, doing things over and over again. That is a fairly damaging way to see it. In my mind, and people living with OCD I'm sure can relate, it isn't me just wanting to do things or feeling like I have to do things over and over again. Essentially, your brain is telling you over time, it convinces you, because you have a lack of a chemical that allows thoughts to pass through your brain. So essentially it tells you that you're doing it wrong, and it eventually convinces you that you're doing it wrong. So your brain tells you to do it one more time. You do it one more time, and the next time you turn on the light, it turns into 2 times because you didn't do it good enough. Next time you wash your hands, it turns into 3, 4, 5 times. So it isn't that your brain is telling you that you have to do it again. Your brain's telling you that you are completely doing that thing wrong. So you feel like you have to fix it. Anxiety. Anxiety has been one that has been prominent throughout my life. Even before I had noticed major signs of mental illness, anxiety had always been a small thing throughout my life in my childhood years. I really started to lose my sense of self and lose my sense of control in my brain when I was around 11 or 12 years old. My brain and my memories had gone black when I started to get older, because my brain was trying to block out those years that had seemed as the worst years of my life. On to borderline personality disorder. First of all, the reason why I haven't been pursuing a diagnosis is because diagnoses don't help you in your journey of recovering and learning how to cope. For me, when I was younger, I needed to know that I was living with a mental illness, so it didn't seem like I was crazy. People questioned me. People always asked when I would bring it up, I have OCD. And they're like, really? You have OCD? Or you're living with this? They wouldn't believe me. So for me, that was me trying to show that I am living with something, that I have proof that this is what I'm going through. Now that I'm much older and I have many years of experience behind me with what I'm going through, it isn't important to me so much that I can prove to others what I'm going through, but it's very important to me that I can deal with what I'm going through for myself. So that's the reason why I haven't pursued a diagnosis of borderline personality. I have been going to therapy specifically with a doctor that treats borderline personality, and it has changed my life in the past year. Borderline personality essentially is a dysregulation of emotions. It also has an impact on how you see others, how you see yourself, how you regulate in everyday life, self-image issues. It also creates very unstable patterns with relationships as well. How I would handle this in work settings or at school, I would try to please everybody. This was from a lack of knowing who I was inside or what I truly felt about others and myself. It was very hard for me to have conversations about opinions just because I had no sense of self. I didn't understand what was going on due to my lack of regulating emotions, so I wasn't able to properly understand what I was feeling in that moment and knowing what I value as a person. Another thing with borderline personality is making very irrational decisions and changing what you feel about things and how you feel about your decisions and paths in life daily. Throughout all my years not knowing about borderline personality, I had always known that I had something else going on in my brain. I had been going to therapy throughout all of high school and after I graduated for only OCD and anxiety. The reason why I stopped going to therapy was because I knew it wasn't helping me for where I wanted to go. The hardest part afterwards, with knowing that I had something else going on, was finding out what was going on. And it's very difficult when you're trying to look online for what your symptoms are. When you look up mental illness, a lot of the symptoms of mental illness are very normal. They seem like everyday things that people run into, which they really are, but your brain amplifies them or takes them to a crazy extent that is something that isn't normal. That's where you need a mental professional, you need a psychiatrist, a therapist's opinion, someone that has experience and is educated in the topic to have a different perspective, look at what you're going through. Another major thing when that therapist had told me I should look into borderline personality, that came as a very big shock. I thought she was saying I was crazy. I thought she was saying that I was some kind of lunatic. Personality disorders seem like something out of a movie, something you never hear of. But now, knowing and having gone to therapy and learning how to cope with it, it is just as normal as any other mental illness. One point that I'd like to make throughout my videos, and especially this video, is that all of my experiences are very subjective. Everything that you hear in this video today is my experience and my experience only. Many people may have it much less, many people may have it much worse than I do. So coming from me, these are my personal experiences of what I have lived through, and this is why I'd like to have many other people on the show to listen to their experiences as well. I hope everything that I've shared with you today has given you some insight into what I've been dealing with and what I continually go through every day that I have to cope with, and that makes me who I am. These are also the reasons why I hope to share my stories and everyone else's stories, for those that are not able to share their own. I am very comfortable with it, and this is what I am going to do, just so we can break down these uncomfortable barriers and make it a normal conversation and make everyone feel comfortable with what they're living with. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and I hope to see you in the next video.